welcome to What, Why, God. And we are in season 3, and we're talking about the testimonies of God and his people and the timeless truth of his Bible and his work in our lives and how he can really work through our entire lives. A lot of people think of testimonies as this one great big event, but really our lives are a testimony because God enters in so many unique and interesting ways. And today we're going to learn a little bit about that with Shannon Cole. She's a member here at First Colony. She's been a part of our worship team for some time. In fact, she actually met her husband here at First Colony. So there's a testimony in and of itself. And strangely enough, her testimony today is about connections and how God connects his people together through so many little intricate ways that kind of bring that all about. But we're going to talk a little bit about how something amazing happened in her online connection group. And as she was kind of talking about it with me, she was like, oh my gosh, if this hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened. So we're going to take you back just a little bit to a bit of a testimony about when she was going through a depression and how that led her to another testimony. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, so kind of some hopelessness that led into some depression and it's kind of been going on a few years now. And I won't go into all of the things that contributed to it, but I'll mention some of the more common things. And one of them was I've reached this age now where I look at my life and I think, where has the time gone?
Yeah.
I'm going to turn 50 this year. How is that? And just there's things that come along with this age. Your body doesn't work like it used to. And kids growing up soon will, kids leaving. And there's all kinds of things that are good and supposed to happen, but they're just hard. It's a hard a life transitional thing. I know that's coming, so seeing that.
Yeah.
And I think everybody faces this at some point or another. So it's common, and I know I'm not the only one. But something else was that I was extremely overweight. Like I was 100 pounds overweight, and so I naturally struggled with some self-esteem things, and that gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I didn't like myself, so there's that too. So then you take a few huge monkey wrenches, throw them into life, disappointments and things like that. And you start struggling to find hope. And the next thing you know, you are grabbing hold of some coping mechanism and you're holding on for dear life because you're in some dark places, and that was me, dark places. I developed a mental coping mechanism. It's a form of escape it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think we all have escapes sometimes when we go through that and you realize it's not good. And so what happened after that?
yeah, so I mean, dark places, and it got to a point where I could not listen to music, any of it, could not listen to any music. And I love music. It is a part of who I am.
Yeah.
And it started feeling like I was dying from the inside out. I didn't know who I was anymore. And I'd come to church, and there were some Sundays I could not sing. I could not do it. And those of you that know me, I love it.
She does. Very
So,
musical. Yes.
Very painful, because that's something that previously gave me so much joy.
Yeah.
And now it's painful, and it just, it was hard. I mean, it was hard. It was kind of like right at the end of COVID, kind of.
Yeah, and the hard part about that is that you're going through all of this and you're isolated.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so this sin that you had, this coping mechanism just kind of took hold. And so tell me about how you felt like you knew God knew what was going on with
Yes. So I withdrew kind of, and I struggled, but I struggled to pray. I struggled to pray because I wasn't mad at God. I was not angry with him. I just felt so guilty about my sin that I felt like, who are you? He sees right through that. You're fooling yourself if you think you're fooling God. It just does. It's just not. That's not how it works. But but my spirit longed for him. I
Mhm.
knew I needed him. Like I was
Mhm.
missing that part of me that was always in conversation with him, but I
Mhm.
felt so guilty to have a
Mhm.
conversation
Mhm.
with him,
Mhm.
because I knew that he saw my sin, and it was just killing me. But I knew that I, had to authentically pray, something that was coming from my heart. And the only thing I could come up with was, Lord, please just give me something, anything that distracts me from this thing. I know I need you. I know you see this. I know that you know what pain I'm going through. And I know that I need you. And I know that I need to let you have this.
Mhm.
But it is so hard to let go of this right now. Please just give me something to help me. I want to give this to you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just so hard. Please just give me something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And you said you had some friends that kind of stepped in while you were having that prayer. Yeah.
Yes. I have some amazing friends. Two of them in particular. One of them encouraged me. She said she recognized something in me from her own experience, and she said, "Shannon, you might need to go seek some medical help with
Mhm.
this. I'm
Mhm.
seeing some stuff that I think that's what you might need to do." And she's a Christian too.
Yeah.
The other one encouraged me to go and seek counseling,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and I drug my feet for a while, but those two friends, they stayed on me. They were
Mhm.
faithful. They did not let me just slip by,
Mhm.
and I love them both dearly for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's love. That's a
Yeah.
friend. That's a real friend,
Yeah.
that doesn't just let you slip on by
Yeah.
because they know what you need. And love doesn't just sugarcoat.
Right.
Love speaks truth.
Well, and it speaks a little bit to the whole conversation about the
Yeah.
connections, because if we disconnect ourselves from the people of God that love us and know what God wants for us, we're not going to hear God's voice, because we can cry out to him all we want. But
Uh-uh.
if we are isolating ourselves and not listening to him, but you had two really good Christian friends
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
just basically came alongside you, you said,
Yeah.
and you said this went on for almost a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both of them at different times, they both told me, I'm going to ask you about this. I was like, please do. I said,
Yeah.
please do, because I knew that if I just, put my hand up, if I was going to do that, this is not going to work. It's not going to work
Right.
out, you
Right.
know.
So you're praying for something, and what did God give you?
So, it's crazy. uh, at the beginning of kind of the onset of this, I mean, like about a week or so, I kind of looked back at this and tried to figure out when this happened. But about a week before my struggle became real, I had this dream that just randomly, I'm out on this outdoor stage and I'm playing the guitar, you know?
Mm.
And I woke up from this dream and I'm just so sad that the dream is over for one. But I could not play the guitar at all. How am I going to do that?
How
I
is
don't, I don't,
that
I don't know how to
possible?
play
I
the
don't know how
guitar.
to play.
And I'd always wanted to. I'd always
Right,
wanted to.
right.
But it turned out that I had a guitar, but it sat in my closet for about 18 years. And I bought it when we lived in Pensacola, but that is this whole other story. But a few months later, I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to play that guitar.
Mhm.
So I found some online lessons, and I started learning how to play. But anybody that plays a guitar will tell you that when you first start playing the guitar, it hurts your fingers
Fingers.
really bad. It hurts bad. But I found that I did not care how much my fingers hurt because I
Mhm.
enjoyed it so much. And that's what it was giving me,
Mhm.
joy.
Mhm.
Joy in something that gave me joy to begin with, but was starting to sour, you
Mm,
know?
mhm.
And that truly started helping me in the places where medicine and counseling can't reach down into. Only God can get down in there.
Yeah,
Um,
a soul deep. Yeah.
absolutely. And personal for me,
Yeah. Yeah,
personal for
yeah.
me.
It was something that God knew you needed. And I
Exactly.
think, and you were talking about how you couldn't even sing. It's almost like the enemy taking away your joy.
And yeah, oh, he tried to rob me of that joy. Something that it gave me joy to begin with, but now it was souring, and I thought it was going to cause me pain for the rest of my life,
Mhm.
But this thing that it started helping my self-esteem too.
Mhm.
And not only that, it gave me back my music.
Right.
I could listen to music again. I could sing by playing it on the guitar,
Yeah. That's
you know.
beautiful.
But he
That's beautiful.
but he did. Like he tried. I feel like Satan tries to rob joy, but God redeems it.
Yes.
God redeems whatever Satan takes from you
Yes.
in a way that it cannot be taken from you again.
Yes. And because you asked him and asked him and asked him, and he gave you that.
Absolutely.
I just love that because
Absolutely.
God always comes through. So tell me, how did you then start using this new skill in worship?
Okay, so I mustered up some courage. This is maybe, I don't know if it was late spring or early summer. I kind of mustered up some courage and I went to go see Richard and said, it was after church one Sunday. I said, hey, um, I I play the guitar a little bit, and I strum. I don't finger pick or anything like that. I don't solo, but I'm a rhythm guitarist, and I'd be interested if you ever needed a stand-in.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Right.
and he said, okay, you know, um, and so that was kind of just me. And it took me some courage because I thought, I can sort of play the guitar. I'm not that good, but I really like it. And I can play some of these songs,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
thought,
yeah.
let me just see. But what's crazy is that Missy Edgman, our women's minister, she's wonderful. She's a good friend of mine. And I had been kind of telling her that I was starting to play the guitar and I was enjoying playing some of the songs that we sing at church. And from time to time, she would ask me about it.
Yeah.
Well, when she was planning for our Women's Day this past October, maybe late spring, early summer, like I think it was within a week of me telling Richard that, hey, I'd like to do that sometime. She emailed me and said, hey, do you think your guitar skills are up to playing for this Women's Day thing that I have planned? It would be you and a vocalist, your daughter Sarah,
Yeah.
and then Libby, who plays the piano and teaches piano lessons. She was going to play the piano. So it was going to be the three of us. And I thought, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she set everything up. She and Richard helped us a ton with practice and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And it was a huge learning curve.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I had no
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
how different it was to play with other instruments and vocalists than it was to just sit there and play the guitar by yourself. It's a
Yeah.
totally different thing.
Mhm.
I didn't know that till I
Mhm.
experienced this, but there was a big learning curve. We practiced and it was great. We got help from Jack too.
Yeah, he's
Good
great.
old Jack.
Yeah.
And so it was so much fun. I learned so much, but I have to tell you, there's no way I could have stepped in up here and done this
If you
if I
hadn't
had
done
not
that.
had that experience.
Yeah.
And I'm telling this is not something that, okay, a few years ago I did this. This is lining up.
Yeah.
Beginning of summer, we practice August, September, early October is this Women's Day. And that day, the Women's Day thing, it turned out great. It was wonderful. Richard sent me the request that day. And it was like for about a month and a half later. So I had some time to wrap my mind around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it lined up.
Yeah.
Everything just went boop,
Yeah. God
lined right
set
up.
up all of
Mhm.
the pieces and put them all into
Yep.
place. And so
Yep.
so how is this connected to your online connection group? So we
Okay.
started a little bit about that. And so what we're doing is we're kind of showing the tendrils of God in your life and how all of this led to some of this stuff. So tell us how that somehow got to your online connection.
Okay.
That connection.
Yeah.
Where's
So
that connect?
okay. So this is, wow. Okay. So I teach an evening women's Zoom Bible study, and it's on Romans, and it's written by Melissa Spolstra, and this is crazy. So the first night of the meeting, this lady comes on that none of us know who she is, so we're curious, who is this? So we ask her, hey, how did you know about our study? And she said, well, I watch your, because this is why we were curious about who she was. She mentioned something at some point that indicated that she's not in the same time zone as we are, So we were like, okay, how do you know about us? And so she said, well, I watch your Sunday services live every Sunday regularly. And we're like, well, how do you, it turned out she's from Colorado. This is why we're like, how do you know about all of this? You know, she's from Colorado. And so she said, well, I know one of your drummers from second service, Tom.
Yeah.
And I'm like Will Ferrell in Elf. I know him. You know? I just like, oh. You know, so, you know, I mean, just think about this. Just a few months previously, I did not know Tom.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was. I mean,
Yeah.
she could have said that. I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the cool thing is that I knew the one person at First Colony that she knew.
Yeah.
The one person.
Yeah.
And this this study, there's some more to this too. Remember how I mentioned that Melissa Spolstra study?
Yeah.
She had that book sitting in her house. Had not touched it. She just had the book. And what are the odds that the Bible study group that is doing the study that she's got sitting in her house is the online one?
Yes.
There are several.
Yes.
This is the online one.
Yes.
So I get the feeling that God went out in front of it all. You know, me, first he put on my heart that I wanted to lead a Bible study because it's not typically me, it's usually Leah Rabb.
Yeah.
And she's an amazing partner, she's an amazing teacher. It's usually her, but he put it on my heart that I wanted to lead. And so I told Missy, and she gave me all these studies to look at. And there were a bunch I was looking at.
Yeah.
And it was hard to choose.
Yeah.
And so what made me choose that study was, number one, I love me some Romans.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Romans.
It's a great book. Yeah, it's a great book.
You know, and
Lots of good stuff.
and then number two, there were so many that I was like, these are all so good. I don't know. We're going to do Romans. You know, and so
it just happened to be the exact one.
So that may have been what God used to help her decide, I'm going to join a Bible study with women that I don't even know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
at night and make that connection. And it's almost kind of like he went out ahead of her and just was like, you know, holding his hand out to her and say, hey, I want you to try this.
Yeah.
Because she told us that she did not grow up going to church. This is a person who is now adamant that this is what she needs to do. And it's not because of me. This was already in her heart or whatever, that she's going to raise her child, you know, knowing who Jesus is. But it's almost like he kind of helped her with that, you know. He, you know, reaches out his hand and says, hey, come on, I want you to try this. You know, just wait till you see what I've got for you, you know. And so it's just, that's what he does. He goes out before you.
Yeah, and so we started with your depression.
Uh-huh.
And how God worked through all of that, and somehow all of that, and how God brought you out of that through music, brought you to the women's thing, brought you to wanting to reach out to other people in another way to connect to other people online who can be very disconnected,
Right.
but also brought you to a very worshipful in the worship ministry to be able to not just be the singer, but to be an extra instrumentalist, meet somebody. And there's just so many coincidences that all of this works together so that this woman can get to know and learn God more, and that you have a connection. And she feels connected now more to the church than just watching. And I think, I you know, and joining the group was great. And then to join the group and know somebody is even better. And I just think, you know, as you're talking about all of this, it's really about taking that next step. And you talked a little bit about how we are so fearful sometimes to make connections with people because we're afraid of judgment, or we're afraid, you know, of what might come from it. But if you trust in the Lord, and if you say, God, I need you in this moment, and it may not, you said you were in this for a little while, and something you're still dealing with, right? So tell us about that next step and getting out of your comfort zone real quick.
Yeah, so you do not ever know what God has in store for you when you do take that next right step. Even if it's stepping out of your comfort zone, it could be the next right step for you. Even if you are a prodigal son or daughter, you know, it doesn't matter what that next step might need to be, but if you realize it and you step out in faith and with courage to take that next right step, you're going to find that God is going to pull things together for you in very meaningful ways. And what I mean by that is that even if you just help with like the church needs a task that needs doing. Maybe we need to get decorations up for Easter, or we need to do Christmas or whatever. Just show up for a little bit. Even if you get a little twinge in your heart, I should probably show up. Just if I could just show up for an hour. Just I mean little bitty bit. I'm not talking about doing these huge things. I'm talking about tiny little baby steps. You take that. Or if maybe you minister to somebody in some very small way, just take another tiny little step. God will show you connections that'll blow your mind. As in people, you start, or let's say you start going to a Bible study because you want to strengthen your relationship with God. He is all over that. He will honor it 100%. He will meet you there.
Yeah.
And you will find that you have connections with people. Like you may know some of this, you may meet somebody somewhere, the same people. That person that you meet in that group might be someone from your past. You might meet somebody that has some unique, and I mean a unique struggle, not some common one, but a unique struggle that they struggle with. You might know someone, be related to someone, or you yourself might know something about that. You know how to talk to them. And you understand what they're going through. Either this just goes on and on and on. You don't ever know what other people are going through, and the connections just start happening. And maybe you've and you don't realize it at first. You may not realize it at first, but at some point you realize, oh wow, God put me there for a reason. He put me there for a reason, and maybe it wasn't just me that chose that group.
Yeah.
Maybe God went out before me. And we don't have time to discuss like all of these. I have tons of examples of this that are just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing. But when I was unpacking these questions that you were asking me, it's so crazy how this works. When I was unpacking this, I zoomed out to look at a bigger picture of my life, just thinking about just what I've experienced, And I realized that there are more connections throughout the timeline of my life I did not realize it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The
If
connections,
I
just
hadn't
little
done that,
bitty.
then this wouldn't have happened,
Yes,
and this, and then
yes.
that affected this person, and that, and yeah,
And it occurred to me that like God gives you these little bitty things,
yeah.
and sometimes you can't see them for what they are, and they're kind of like these little blossoms. They like to hide at first, but when you realize what they are, you start realizing, oh my goodness, God, I mean, I have purpose.
Yeah.
I'm meant to be here. When you look at all of those things, you think, oh my goodness, I am meant to be. You are meant to be. And not only that, you realize that God has woven you right into his big old plan. He's woven you right in there. You're in there. And it's like this tapestry, And if somebody came and pulled your little thread, it'd ruin the whole thing. Not that God would ever let that happen. You can't do that. But it shows you who you are. God purposed for you to be there. You have meaning and purpose, and it's always meant to be that way. That's
Yeah.
plan A. That's how it's supposed to be.
Plan A.
Pretty
love it.
awesome.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So thank you so much for telling us your story. And
welcome.
I hope you've gotten something out of this. It's just a reminder that God works in so many mysterious ways, and he is very specific. He knows exactly what you need. And so your story may not look like Shannon's. It may look something different. But really take a big look at your life and how many times has God stepped in and made things work for your good, for his good rather, and really made a difference in somebody else's life. And you can't do that if you're not connected. You have to get connected to the people of God, and they also will help you.
Right.
Nobody's perfect. As Ronnie likes to say, you step into a perfect church, you need to leave because you'll probably make it imperfect. So don't come in with the assumption that, oh, these people are gonna be all perfect and they're gonna, be judgmental and, no, everybody is imperfect, but we're all trying really hard to lift each other up and to do as God is asking us to do because we all have struggles. And thank you so much for sharing yours and how God blessed that struggle. So thank you so much for being with us today. You're welcome to like, share, and subscribe. I'd really suggest that if you are looking for a church, just go. You can check them out online. and get connected. Don't just sit in the pew, but just get connected and get to know somebody. And if you haven't seen any of our other episodes, our last few seasons, they're also on our website. You're welcome to check those out, seasons 1 and 2. They're really great. And remember, God loves you, and he wants you to be connected with his people. Have a great day.